There is no rest for the wicked as we are past the NHL draft, but now it's all about free agency. And we'll talk about all that here on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I am your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I do some AHL coverage over at the Calder Times. I am also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a very informal episode for you guys on a Monday show, as we are going to be talking about everything that is the 2024 free agency / re-sign phase and what goes into all of that. And just for the fact that a short turnaround from the NHL draft that just happened on Friday and Saturday over the past weekend on June 20th and 29th. And with the Sunday breather, we would go right into the free agency period. So we're going to talk about the guys on the Carolina Hurricanes who got qualified offers. Definitely talk about the entire situation that was Jake Guentzel that kind of went from he could be back to he's no longer with the Hurricanes. We'll talk about that and just how that transpired between Thursday to Sunday afternoon. And then we're also going to finish up the episode with talking about free agency rumors of upcoming UFAs for the Hurricanes that might be out the door and possible deals that could be announced as soon as 12:01 p.m. Eastern, hopefully on Monday, later on today. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, not so much for hockey and basketball, those are pretty much done, but the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So like I said, we are into the day one of the free agency period. Like I said, really quick turnaround from the draft. I know everyone's waiting for my reactions to the draft, and we'll get to that hopefully later this week, if not probably next week. It's just with how quick of a turnaround we're going into right now. That's why you're getting the free agency stuff on the Monday edition of the show, rather than what would have been a draft, reaction. Hopefully get to that soon, but with the fact that, like I said, with free agency and the re-sign phase starting today, kind of had to do a quick turn. Had to come to the conclusion of it's just easier to get into the free agency stuff and let you guys know what's going on. And we'll get to the draft reactions and stuff later on at some point soon. So with that being said, the free agency period does start at noon Eastern on July 1st. And one of the main things going into Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. was the fact that the qualifying offers had to go in. Now, for those who don't really know what goes into qualifying offers and stuff like that, basically a qualifying offer is restricted free agents who the team hopes to retain negotiating rights for, and the fact that the qualifying offers are more so one-year contracts. Now, doesn't mean it has to be a one-year contract, but it could be where it's just giving a team more time to keep their guys to have more of a longer period to negotiate and hopefully get longer contracts, or maybe guys will accept the qualifying offer, which will be that 1 year. When it comes to what the salary is, the minimum salary for the qualifying offer depends on the player's salary from the previous season. So it just depends, like, say, if you're on an ELC, you're probably looking at ELC price. If you're looking for, what the minimum is for the qualifying offer, then you're looking at, let's say it's Martin Necas, it's $3 million. But for the players, they have between noon Eastern today on July 1st until 5 p.m. on July 15th to accept the offer. Now, let's say if guys, they reject the qualifying offer, then you're going into what would be arbitration, and that all it depends on service time and stuff like that. Now, there are 3 Hurricanes that do have arbitration rights. We'll get to them here in a second, but guys who can file for arbitration are players that are 18 to 20 years old, and they must have 4 years of NHL experience before they are eligible. Along with, there's a player who's 21, must have 3 years of experience. Players that are 22 through 23 years old have 2 years. And then anyone over 24 years of age only has 1 year. And a player earns a year of NHL experience by playing in at least 10 NHL contests. Now, that's how it usually goes. But it'll be how that usually works out and stuff like that. So, that being said, there's guys, like I said, there's the guys who could reject the qualifying offer, or there's the players who can sign it. And then there you go. Then you have, as long as they do between the 1st and the 15th, they can sign the offers and stuff like that. So that being said, for the Carolina Hurricanes players who did get qualified, their offers was restricted free agents of defenseman Dylan Coghlan, and then forwards Jack Drury, Seth Jarvis, and Martin Necas. Now, the thing is, Seth Jarvis is the only one out of the 4 guys who is not arbitration eligible, just because the fact that he's 22 doesn't really meet a lot of the requirements of what an arbitration player is, like I mentioned before. So that's just usually how it works with that. So Martin Necas, Dylan Coghlan, and Jack Drury are all those guys are arbitration eligible. Now they have until noon, July 1st, until July 15th at 5 p.m. to sign the offer, or they can decline, then we can go into arbitration. So it all depends on how that usually works out. Now, the other 4 players who were RFAs but weren't given qualifying offers were Max Comtois, Griffin Mendel, Blake Murray, and Tuukka Teskala. Now, for the fact that since those guys weren't given the offer, they will become unrestricted free agents. As of right now, they already are, but they won't become officially available until at noon Eastern on, today, July 1st. So that's just kind of how it works out with. It was a foregone conclusion that, Seth Jarvis was going to get qualified. Jack Drury makes sense too. And same thing for Martin Necas. There was no way the Hurricanes were going to at least get those 3 guys taken care of, because the fact that, they want to hold on to their rights. And with Martin Necas, with all the rumors of trades going around and stuff like that, the Hurricanes want to hold on to his rights. So that way they can be able to move him on and get assets back. Jack Drury, hopefully they keep him around. I think he's a really good, center who could, be given more time, because last year was his first full season. And I think if he's given more of an opportunity, I think he can really thrive with the Hurricanes. Seth Jarvis, obviously, it makes no sense. Like, this guy's going to get a contract now. It just depends if it's a bridge or a 8-year deal. It'll be remain to be seen, but it's a no-brainer for that one. Dylan Coghlan was an interesting selection for the Canes for the fact that he didn't really play a whole lot for the Hurricanes this past season. Spent most of the year down in Springfield with the Thunderbirds, the St. Louis Blues affiliate. And then he did come up and, when their season was over, he was kind of like a black ace for the Hurricanes and stuff like that. So didn't really get a whole lot of time with the team this past season. And he hasn't really done much in terms of playing on the ice for the Hurricanes since becoming over in that Max Pacioretty trade for the start of the 2022-23 season. So it'll be interesting to see what the Hurricanes do with him, if they bring him back next year as a possible 7th D-man, or just as defenseman depth, and he's going to the Chicago Wolves because the Hurricanes have the AHL affiliate again. So that'll be very interesting to see how that all plays out. Who really knows? But it'll definitely be something to keep an eye on for sure when it comes to stuff like that. With, you got your guys who have been qualified. It's only 4 of them. Now it comes down to, will they sign for the 1-year deals, or do we see possible multi-year extensions for a bunch of these guys and stuff like that? And with Martin Necas, do we see a trade in this? They just qualified offered him so he can keep his rights? But then, like I said, for the 4 guys who didn't get qualified offered, they're not going to be unrestricted free agents for other teams to possibly go and snag up, or maybe return to the Hurricanes. And we'll just have to see how that goes with all of that. Now, we do have, the unrestricted free agents for the Hurricanes we got to talk about, because that's going to be a lot of interesting names that are going to be possibly leaving. And stuff like that too. And hopefully there's also going to be some extensions. Hopefully that does get announced, but we'll save that for later on in the show. But segment 2 is going to be something that we have to talk about because it was a huge story coming from last Thursday with Elliot Friedman on the Pat McAfee show up until Sunday afternoon with the news of what went on with Jake Guentzel, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Corey Laviolette of The Athletic dropped some big news of how this all transpired. And we'll get to all of that here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. You guys know me. I love sports, and I know you do too. We all love them so much that we never want them to stop. But as the playoffs are now officially over for the NHL and the NBA, we're in the mid-swing of baseball season. We do get fewer games in terms of overall sports, but we do have women's professional soccer and the WNBA and all that stuff too, and of course with golf and NASCAR. So there's a lot more sports still going on outside of our major ones. But with FanDuel, they can let me and you keep up the sports going whenever we want. And all we have to do is open the app and dream up the bets anytime we are in the mood to make them in terms of whatever variety of sports we want. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back to a segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. It's like I said at the end of segment 1, we got to talk about the Jake Guentzel saga, story, whatever you want to call it. One of the main things coming into the summer was were the Hurricanes were they going to be able to re-sign Jake Guentzel? And that was kind of like a big thing because, he had a really great season for them, 25 points in 17 games. 9 points in 11 playoff games. He was really lethal on that line with Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis in the regular season, and then with Aho and Andrei Svechnikov in the playoffs. Now, the main thing was, as their season kind of ended and we were kind of progressing along towards free agency, you were wondering, okay, what's the news? What's the offer? What's going on with the whole situation with Jake Guentzel? And the fact that, Don Waddell left and Eric Tulsky was named the interim and then the permanent GM. We see that Ryan Suzuki gets an extension. Jalen Sheffield gets a 3x3 extension as well. And now they're going on with Jake Guentzel. So going by the timeline of everything that happened that transpired over the last few days, going back to Thursday, Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet 32 Thoughts and stuff like that, he jumped on the Pat McAfee show and he was hearing that, the Hurricanes matched the offer that Jake Guentzel and his camp were asking for. It was going to be 8 years by $8 million per season. Hurricanes said they were going to match, and now they're just locking down the minor details. And, we're probably looking at if there were signing bonuses or no movement clauses, no trade clauses, stuff like that. So from all indications, it sounded like, the Hurricanes were going to match what he wanted was that 8x8. And then they were just trying to figure out all the minute details. Going into Friday, still haven't really heard anything. You're wondering what's going on. Same thing going into Saturday. You're kind of like, okay, what's the deal here? I know at one point during the summer, the Hurricanes are thinking about possibly, trading his rights because it sounded like they weren't going to get anywhere. And, eventually, like I said, the Hurricanes were going to go match his offer. And then all we hear is, Saturday going into Sunday that there's a possibility that Jake Guentzel is not going to come back to Carolina because I guess he changed his mind partway through the draft and he doesn't want to come back. I guess that they were the main thing was the initial story being that it was at this point because they waited so long that they were just going to go to free agency and see what happens. And Elliot Friedman said that, Saturday night after the draft going into Sunday that Tampa Bay could be the big players going after Jake Guentzel for the fact that they traded away Mikhail Sergachev to Utah and got rid of Tanner Jeannot, that they were the fact that they're going to let Steven Stamkos walk. They're opening up money to go after someone that seemed like it was going to be Jake Guentzel. And being in that too, for the fact that Florida is a tax-free state, so you could be looking at a 7 by $9.5 million, because of the fact that Guentzel was with Tampa Bay, so he couldn't get that 8th year. But if they're going to give him 7 years, they can jack up the annual average value. That's why you see that 8 by 8 turns into a 7 by 9.5, because you took 1 year off the contract, but now you're adding $1.5 million per season. And of course, like I said, it's a tax-free state. You're basically getting all your money. So now Tampa will seem like to be the big runner, and a lot of people are thinking, well, how did Carolina drop the ball? Did they just wait too long? Did Jake Guentzel feel like they weren't appreciating and stuff like that? So there's a lot of speculations like, okay, what's going on? Did the front office do something? Turns out Sunday afternoon, Corey Laviolette puts out a tweet saying from what he's heard was the fact that it was a midweek ask. So you're talking like Tuesday, Wednesday by Jake Guentzel's camp. That Tuesday or Wednesday, they said, we want an 8 by 8 and we'll stay in Carolina. Thursday, Hurricanes come back and be like, okay, we'll match it. We'll match your 8 by 8. Then sounds like Guentzel and his camp said they had to think about it first and see what's going on from there. And then later in the draft, so we're talking like Saturday afternoon, somewhere between rounds 2 and 7, Jake Guentzel and his agent come back and say that they changed their mind and they're going to go to free agency and see what happens there. Now you're looking at the situation where it's like, this is what they wanted. Hurricanes said, okay, we'll offer it. And then it's, well, you know what, never mind. We'll see what happens in free agency. So now it just seems like that they were just, now going on pure speculation here, it sounds like they were just trying to drive up the price and see what Tampa Bay might do or another team might do, because there is tampering rules, but let's be honest, every team talks to a certain guy who's going to be free agency before that time period goes. No one's really going to say anything unless it's super egregious, but it's just an interesting aspect of how the fact that you look at Jake Guentzel in his camp earlier in the week said that this is what they want. The Hurricanes a couple of days later said, okay, fine, we'll match. And now you're talking 2 days later in the middle of the second day of the draft, and they're like, no, never mind. We'll just go to free agency instead. And now it just comes down to, okay, so you just wanted more money. You didn't really want to stay. You were just trying to figure out how to get more money out of the contract. Now it's kind of like, okay, now it's just kind of like initially it was going to be a bad look on the front office, but now it's like, well, the front office said they'll go give them the money that they wanted, but now the player and the agent seem like they're backing out. So is it Jake Guentzel saying no, or is it his agent saying no, or is it a mutual thing? So that's just a very interesting situation to be in. So with all that, the Hurricanes also on Sunday afternoon announced that they traded his rights to Tampa Bay for a 2025 third-round pick. I know a lot of people are going to be upset with it for the fact that, okay, that's how could that be all you got after giving the guys like Vasily Ponomarev and Michael Bunting and draft picks and all this stuff. At the time, that was the asking price because it's Jake Guentzel. Nothing you could do there, but honestly, it's a smart move by the Hurricanes. Okay, well, instead of letting you walk for free, they were looking at other teams with the last few weeks saying who wants to get his UFA rights to have a chance to talk to him before free agency kicks off. So that's the thing. Like, I don't think a lot of people knew that was possible because, the RFA right trades is one thing. But you don't really think of UFA trades because he's already going to be a free agent. But you get the opportunity to actually talk to him before free agency actually starts. So you have that time period of, okay, let's say it's noon on Sunday. Now you have 24 hours from that noon on Sunday to noon on Monday to get a contract. And so that way when it hits 12:01, boom, here you go. Here's your contract. You're done. You're ready to go. We just got to announce it. And it's, agreed upon on principle before it's officially official to the league. So that's why the Hurricanes did that. And like I said, it's a smart move. You're not going to get him back. There's going to be teams that are going to be desperate enough to want to try to get to him first and get the contract done before you get to free agency. And then you're going into a bidding war. And it seemed like Tampa was willing to give him whatever contract that is. So that's why, Eric Tulsky and them had to make the decision. Okay, it's like, all right, you don't want to come back to Carolina? Fine. We're going to trade you to someone else. They can go handle your possible extension, and we'll go from there. And that's basically what it comes down to. So the Hurricanes did get at least something out of it. They didn't let him walk for free. You got a third-round pick for next year, which honestly isn't a bad thing overall. It's a pretty good get for the fact that you got a guy who doesn't want to come back, and you got a third-rounder next year. You'd wish he would stay, but in the end, he didn't want to, and there you go. That's how it worked out. And now Jake Guentzel is probably going to be with the Tampa Bay Lightning because, not even an hour ago, it sounds like the deal is contractually, agreed upon. Now they just got to make it official at noon. So wish out the best for the Jake. He's going to be in the Atlantic, so you're not going to see him a whole lot. I know the preseason games and the first game back at PNC will be very, very interesting to see how that works out with how the fans are going to react to him for the fact that he asked, Hurricanes matched, they said never mind instead. So that'll be very, very interesting. But it definitely was something that it was a crazy few days going from Thursday to Sunday afternoon where you see it's like, okay, a possible deal might get done with Carolina. Nothing. Turns out they changed their mind. And here's why they changed their mind. And the Hurricanes are like, all right, here's your trade. Go to Tampa Bay and figure that out. So a very crazy few days with the whole Jake Guentzel situation. Now we're going to finally jump and talking to the free agency rumors of current Hurricanes that might be on the move, possible Hurricanes that might hopefully stay, and then a possible extension that we've all kind of known about, but we've been waiting for. So we'll get into all the free agency rumors here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Welcome back to a segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said at the end of segment 2, we're going to jump into the free agency rumors of current Hurricanes that might be on the move that we do know of for the most part. And then hopefully some possible contract extensions that will kick in at noon when free agency opens and stuff like that. So the first guy we got to talk about is Brett Pesce. So during the draft, the New Jersey Devils traded John Marino to the Utah Hockey Club, basically opening up some room for cap space. And what Pierre LeBrun of TSN is saying, along with all other people, is the fact that it's an indication that from the rumors that have been going around for the last week or so that Brett Pesce will be going to the New Jersey Devils. Now, no one knows exactly what the contract is of yet, but from what it sounds like, it's agreed upon in principle, and now they're just waiting for the official announcement. So it looks like Brett Pesce will be going to the New Jersey Devils and reuniting with former teammate Dougie Hamilton, who also went to New Jersey for a huge contract at the time back a couple seasons ago. So they're going to be back together. If that's the case, wish nothing but the best for Brett. It's gonna be interesting seeing him for a few times every season for the fact that he's staying within the division. Now he's just going to be in New Jersey with the Devils. You kind of wish that it worked out for the guy who came over, who was drafted by the Hurricanes. Hopefully he was able to stay and finish the story out, but it just seems like the New Jersey was giving him a contract he really, really wanted that the Hurricanes maybe weren't comfortable giving him. And it looks like in all intents and purposes, he's going to be on the move to go to New Jersey. Now, the other things that have been rumored is that Pierre LeBrun thinks that while there's a 60% chance that Brady Shea might go to free agency, there's still a good chunk of chances of like 40-45% that he could stay in Carolina. It's just, what kind of contract he's looking at, between $6.5 and $7 million. I know AFP Analytics projected a little over 7. Hopefully, if you're the Hurricanes, you can kind of figure it out and you keep him in Carolina. And that means you have like 5 of your 6 defensemen coming back from last season. And then you look at, do you bring someone else in or do you just bring in Scott Morrow and figure out where you slot him in within the lineup? So hopefully the news works out that the Carolina Hurricanes keep Brady Shea, but that'll be very, very interesting in terms of that. Other than that type of news, we don't really know what else is going on. Trades-wise with Martin Necas, no one really knows what's going on with that. Everyone knows that Seth Jarvis is going to get signed. It's just, got to take care of the UFAs first. And Seth has even said that he understands that the unrestricted free agency to get taken care of first. Now it just comes down to, is it going to be a bridge? Is it going to be a 7 or an 8-year deal? So that's going to remain to be seen. Now, the main deal that everyone's waiting on that Elliot Friedman talked about back in mid-June was the fact that that he was hearing rumors of a Jacob Slavin extension being agreed upon in term, but cannot be officially announced yet until July 1st. And I've talked about it on past episodes, but for those who haven't heard that yet, the rumored contract that Jacob Slavin and the Hurricanes have agreed upon, we don't know the official numbers yet, is they're looking at an 8-year, $6.5 million per season, which you're talking about one of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL, and you're keeping him under $9 million. That alone is a steal, but if you keep him under $7 million, that is the greatest team-friendly deal I've ever heard of, and every player on the Hurricanes should be buying him steak dinner for the next however many seasons, for the fact that he left a lot of money on the table to stay in Carolina, which would basically lock him up until he's 29 now. He's going to be about 37 by the time the contract's done. You basically locked him in as a Hurricane for life. And at 6.5, that's a really good deal, because even if he's 34, 35, he's still going to be a really good top 4 guy. He might not be on that top, defensive pairing, but you're still talking about a guy who can fit within your top 4 and be still that cornerstone player. So if it works out, that is an absolute steal for Eric Tulsky and the Hurricanes. And it just give credit to Jacob Slavin, and goes to show how much of a team player he is, the fact that he wants to be a Hurricane for life, but he's also not going after the big money. He's leaving the team the flexibility to go build the roster around him, Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, hopefully Seth Jarvis. So big props to Jacob Slavin if that's the actual deal. So that's kind of the one main extension that everyone's kind of, waiting in anticipation for, is that Jacob Slavin extension. Like I said, at 8 by 6.5, you run to the bank, stamp it, sign it, whatever you need to do, and fax it to the league. Get that sucker done as fast as possible, so that way speculation's done and you're good to go from there. So that's the actual deal. Fantastic job on both sides. Mainly for the Hurricanes, just for Jacob Slavin, for the fact that he was able to, be okay with taking that type of money and giving the team flexibility that it really needs. So other than that, that's kind of really the main rumors that are going around, just with, like I said, with Brett Pesce, him possibly going to New Jersey, now with, Jake Guentzel, the whole situation with Tampa Bay, and the anticipated contract extension of Jacob Slavin. As noon hits, we'll start getting some news for the Hurricanes throughout the week. I'll try to keep as much as I can, with whatever guys get signed. Whatever day they get signed on, expect an episode the next day of us talking about it, when the episode drops and stuff like that, hearing, what the deal was and all that. So, and then, if you want to keep it with all of my writings, I will be over at the Hockey Writers, fiercely typing away every news that we get of guys who are going to be staying, who are either re-signing with the Hurricanes or the free agents who are going to come to Carolina. So it's definitely going to be a busy week. So make sure to keep locked in here on Locked On Hurricanes, and also at the Hockey Writers if you want to catch up my writing versions of that as well. So there's going to be a lot going on in terms of just talking about everything and anything that's going to be with free agency this week. So like I said, whatever day guys are going to get signed, expect the next day with an episode talking about wherever that contract is, and also check out the writing site as well. And if you want to keep up with me personally, on social media, you can follow me at X at OneTrueZach. You can follow the podcast at _Hurricanes. There is a link tree in my bio where you can find out, like I said, all my articles and newsletters over at the Hockey Writers. There's also some AHL content if you check that out at the Calder Times. There's also my other podcast, The Search Cats, where you can check out the links to where to listen or watch. And for this show specifically, there's a link to where you can listen to the show on all podcast platforms. And if you leave a 5-star rating and review, I might just read it on the show. Now, the YouTube side of things, we are at, as of before the recording started, we are at 899 subscribers. We are one away from 900, which means we are 101 away from 1,000. And if we get to 1,000, I might just do something special for you guys. So make sure to subscribe, Hit the bell notifications to miss the show. Hit the thumbs up button. Let me know let me know if you like the show, and let me know what you think about the qualifying offers. Who do you hope that stays with the Hurricanes? Let me know what you think about the whole Jake Guentzel situation, and of course all the free agency rumors with Slavin and Pesci and Shea and all that stuff. So let me know what you think. But that will wrap up a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. I know, like I said, unfortunately, not jumping into the draft stuff right away just because with free agency just starting today. 2 days after that, it's a quick turnaround. So, like I said, hopefully get to the draft stuff. But I hope everyone enjoyed this free agency preview of what goes into qualifying offers. Talking about the contract extension when those can kick in for certain guys on July 1st. That are eligible to do that. And of course, all the rumors are going around and all that stuff. But I hope everyone enjoyed the episode. Hope everyone enjoys their Monday. Hopefully it's not super crazy for everyone in terms of keeping up with anything that is the free agency period. But until next time, as always, let's go Canes.